Hi, welcome back. My name is Lori Edwards Azuru. Thank you if you have turned in for part three. This is part three of Why Do You Cry? The name of this chapter it's part three. You can see that. It's called Shipwrecked. And shipwrecked is what happens to you after you go through storm one and storm two, and your boat's knocked over and you're all discombobulated and you don't know what has happened to you. You end up on the beach somewhere, like in a movie, shipwrecked, maybe on a beautiful island that you feel like is your salvation. You're kind of like laying there on this island, which you're so grateful to be on because of being in the storm for so long. And so that is why I named this chapter Shipwreck. This is part three. My name is Lori Edwards Azuru, and I wrote a book called Why Do You Cry? For those who do not know me. And I'm kind of going through the chapters and just giving you just a synopsis of what happened, just to kind of help you along your path if you're going through the storms of life, and maybe going through with different men, problems, divorce, just what we go through. I'm in my 40s, and most women go through the same thing, and God instructed me to write this book of my life. I wrote down journals for 10 years. I journaled for 10 years of my life, everything that had happened to me from the time that my husband walked out and divorced me, and trying to regroup and get back into the swing of life, and just totally demolishing my life and just making it completely worse because I was disobedient to God. But anyway, if you don't know the beginning of the story, go back to part one, Katrina, and then catch up on this video. So we're on part three. We're on Shipwrecked. I'm on the island of Carmel, Indiana. And let's see if I'm going to read a little bit here. I'll just read just the first page. I don't want to read a lot of the book. I just kind of want to give you an idea of what's going on. It says there's so many similarities between natural storms and the two major storms in my life, which were Katrina and Rita, that I talked about in book one and video one and video two. I had been through the course of 1 year. My ship had finally rested on the island of Carmel, Indiana. Carmel was a paradise compared to the place that I had moved. There was a Starbucks on every corner, wonderful shops to browse through, and of course there was Carmel High School, the #1 school in Indiana to graduate from, at least from my opinion. The girls were starting middle school, and I had decided they were going to graduate from Carmel High School one way or the other. And I guess the reason why I really like talking about being shipwrecked, when you're on this island, and this is just the way that I kind of use the scenario, on the outside of the island it always looks good, but on the inside of the island you don't know what's hidden there. And if you ever watch a movie, they'll always have the drums playing in the jungles, and you think you hear drums and then you don't hear them, or you think you saw something but you didn't see it. And so there's always hidden dangers once your ship has landed, or maybe the storm has calmed down or whatever, because the devil is relentless. He does not want to give up on you. And so in my scenario, there was hidden dangers on this island called Carmel, Indiana. And I didn't know that those dangers existed. All I knew, because this was my reference, I didn't really have a reference point at this time in my life. So all I really knew was, this has happened to me. Now the storm is over. Now I've got to clean up the mess. And I was very unsteady in my relationship with God, because I was still kind of angry with him because he didn't give me my way, because he didn't warn me the way I felt like he should have warned me. And because of what had happened to me with Derek, and what had happened to me with Sean, just all the things that had transpired over the last year, I was just like totally dismantled. And of course you have to get the book in order to understand what happened to me. But so we're just going to talk a little bit about just being on this island. When you get on the island, you have to prepare yourself, and really the #1 thing to do on an island in survival is to stabilize yourself. Build yourself a place to rest. Build yourself a place of protection when you come out of a storm. Do not go out looking for, another storm. I mean, and I know that sounds so simple, but sometimes we think that shelter is someone else kind of taking the place of the other person, and that is so not true. And the shelter that really we need to be looking for is the house of God. That is your stability. Even if you have not joined a church or you're not sure about what you want to do, go somewhere and sit in God's house and just chill. Just be quiet. Just listen. Just listen, and just listen to the word of God and what he has to say. You may not even want to join that church, or you might want to, but in the process of it, you have to slow down and take time to listen to God and what he's saying, or even what he's not saying, and then the last thing you need to do is to get into another relationship. And that was my biggest problem, was being obedient to God long enough to let him begin to heal me and change me. My problem is I did not want to go through the pain of trusting God. And that, I think that's one of the things that I bring out in my book, is I didn't want the pain of trusting God. It's painful to trust someone. And we put God in the same category as men. When men hurt us or dog us out, and we really don't have a problem taking them back and trusting them and trusting them and trusting them, and then they hurt us over and over, we kind of equate God to being like man, and God is not like man. God is not always going to do things the way men would do them. But it is painful sometimes to trust God. It is, you have to admit it. It's painful. But the end result is always good. No matter what happens, the end result of trusting God is always better than not trusting God, because when it's all said and done, you will recycle and keep going around and around that mountain until you trust God. So while you're on your island waiting, just remember to stabilize yourself. Find a church home. And begin to just go to church. Even if you're not active in the church, just go and sit and begin to let the word of God rest inside of you, and just don't go out looking for trouble. And that's like in the movie. A lot of people in the movie will go out and they'll look for food, or they'll look for this, instead of staying on the perimeters where it's safe. They'll go into the jungle and start looking for this, and that's when most people get kidnapped, get hurt, get chased, get killed, or whatever in most movies. And that is really indicative of how it is when you have come out of a bad storm. You don't go back looking for this and looking for that. You sit your butt down and let God stabilize you. And I'm going to end this right now, and I hope you enjoyed the chapter on